Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to the coaching circle. Welcome. We are here a group of coaches. We take you through conversations. And today we are talking about how to release trapped emotions. So, welcome in. And to start it off, I'll just mention that we have emotions. Yes, we do go through emotions, and sometimes they get trapped within our body. This often happens when we do not actually feel them. I personally had a habit of blocking anything that comes up. I would just block it and put it aside, block it and put it aside, because I did not feel safe to feel my emotions, and I wasn't really even aware of it. I had gotten into the practice of disassociating from my feelings. So through therapy, through inner work, I learned that this is something that I was doing. So then I had to come back and actually sit with my emotions and feel them. For me, it was very strange. After such a long time of not having actually felt them, it was really this strange phenomena, especially of feeling them inside the body and where they are. Who wants to say something about that? Feeling your emotions in your body.
I actually just wanted to ask you a question,
Sure.
Chiro, as to how did that start to feel when you started to do the inner work and started to feel your feelings? Like, what was that experience like? Just because I can't relate. I can't relate to that. Sorry. So I wanted to know what
No,
that perspective was.
absolutely. It was shocking. It was shocking because, especially the part of feeling them in the body. For the first time, it was my therapist who asked me, "Where do you feel it in your body?" And I was like, "Huh?" I do not understand the question. So it felt, at first, it felt like wrong, illogical, because feelings are not in your body. Feelings are just things. So then it took faith and trust to get inside myself and actually ask myself, angry. Some I had, like being angry and being mad, those higher level ones I always had, but it's these other more deeper feelings that were under one common umbrella. I am happy, say, but then understanding what level, what exactly it is that I was actually feeling, that I was feeling hopeful, trusting, safe. I didn't really have words for that. So I read books, I did therapy, and from that, it's just a practice. So every once in a while, I don't know what I'm feeling. I have an emotion wheel that I got online, and then I just look at it and see the different names of the different emotions, and I say, "This is it."
Yeah. I think that people are accustomed to maybe three emotions like anger, sadness, or happiness, and they don't know how to differentiate between, resentment and just grief or rage versus, um, let's see, just hostility, or there's different things that I feel like, or happiness, like excitement or content, right? There's different ways, there's different words, and I feel like the more we become mindful of how complex these emotions are, the better we're able to like understand ourselves and articulate that to the people around us. Like, I am feeling content, and like, because that's different than excitement, right? But you might just categorize that all under the happy umbrella, right? So I think it's giving us more of the deeper awareness within ourselves to differentiate that, to not only talk to other people, but then holding that same space for others when they're navigating their own emotions. Because I feel like the people who are the best with navigating their own emotions can really read people correctly and what they're feeling. Because there was this study done, and it was like, what is the emotion that when you look at this picture, what emotion do you think that it's reflecting? And it would be like A, B, C, D option. And a lot of people got it wrong. And it's like, wow, like how many times are you looking at somebody and you perceiving them to have one emotion, but they're actually feeling something completely different? And I feel like the ones that got it correctly were those that, like I said, have been navigating their own emotions, know there's a complex range, and were able to correctly identify the emotions of other people by looking at them. So It's insane because you'd be like, oh, that person looks angry, but in fact they look scared, you know? So it's so wild to think about, like, people, if they're not aware of their emotions, are not able to read it correctly in others as well.
I want to add also that we often see emotions, a lot of emotions, as not good. Like, for example, the basic emotions, mad, glad, sad, fear, and shame. People would say the only good one in there is glad, happy. But there is definitely, like, feeling fear is a good thing. It is a warning signal. Or feeling anger. It's good to get angry. It's not necessarily good to stay angry for a long time, but to feel it's telling us something. Or sadness. Sadness can be very healing. So I think that's in our society. Often only good is seen as, if someone is sad, it's like, oh, don't be sad. No, let them go through the emotions, feel it. And there I come to my other point, is the importance of, like as Shiro said, feeling it in the body. And for me especially, I felt it with, like, celebrations. Things not celebrated become sour in the body. Or, like, 2 weeks ago, I had this very important conversation with a client, and something went really good our way, and I was like scared of that conversation for months, and then afterwards I just danced for 20 minutes. Then I felt better, because otherwise there was a lot of stuff stuck in my body, and often just moving it gets it flowing. And dancing is very good, but it could also be, I would say dancing is the best, because you can just move completely free, but maybe swimming, walking, other things can be good too. Feeling it in the body, yeah, it's very important.
I think you also mentioned too the way we walk, right?
Yeah, like a lot of emotion is stored in the hips.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of you can just watch the people, if they walk in a stiff way, that tells. And I wonder if it's because it can obviously be the emotions that are stored there, but because it's often like big chunks of society do the same, it can also be that we copy our parents. So I have not exactly figured that one out, but yeah.
How can we release the emotions or be more mindful of our walking? Because I feel like we walk a lot, and sometimes we're so hurried or we're so rigid. Like, how should we be moving when we're walking?
If I take that one, I think it's also about how you're feeling inside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not programming your mind and saying sway to the left and sway to the right. No. It's more working towards being in harmony with yourself, working towards being in peace with yourself, such that you have a lighter energy around you. And once you have that, then that is what will be helping your body move a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, if you do find yourself stiff, then understand that you are probably in your head, that you're not really inside your body, that once you're in your body, then you are more likely to be swaying a little more. Yeah.
I like that. I feel like
Enjoying
at first,
the walk.
I feel like I would have to exaggerate my movements at first, but like, whoa, swinging to the left, swinging to the right, just to get used to feeling more flexible, more fluid, because then you're kind of loosened up a bit, and you're like, okay, now I can walk with a lot more of a relaxed poise versus a stiff, like I'm just like the stiff person. Let's slow it down. Let's have some more fluidity when we're walking, and yeah, I think we'll start to feel better. We're not as clenched, we're not as tight, and we're not as like you're saying, in our head. We're embodied in it, and we can feel when parts of our body is like tight and clenched and not feeling good.
And it happens all the time. It's not that I am always walking in flow. No. But it's important to be able to recognize it when it happens. If you do note that you are walking in a stiff way, notice it. But then I envision my cats and how they walk. So I try my cat walk. So I just try to loosen myself out. So yes, sometimes you do have to exaggerate it, and it's okay, because you're you're the, what do you call it? You're the main character in your life. So don't imagine that people are watching you and thinking that, oh my God, look at how she's walking. No one cares. No one's interested. They have their own things going on. So feel free.
And I think it's about enjoying the moment. I did a mindfulness course once, and I'm thinking of that. It's like when you take a shower, enjoy the shower. When you're walking, you're walking. You're not already with your mind where you're going. I have to work on that a lot because I tend to go already ahead where I need to go. But that is really, it is so simple, but it is so efficient.
Yeah, embracing the present moment and like
Yes.
truly cherishing it and just feeling good in the present moment, because a lot of the times we're walking or we're doing something and then like we're thinking about our destination and think about going there, we're rushing over there, and it's just like we're always like rushing to all these places and like but and then we're like, where did our day go? It's like we're not even present along the journey from point A to point B. And we need to get better about that, because that's what life is about. The in between parts too, not just the destinations all the time.
Absolutely. And I want to add it to what you said, Gubi, in terms of even these emotions that we've been taught are not the best. Because I do think it's a teaching from society that anger is bad. You should never be angry. But the reality is that any emotion doesn't last very long. If you just feel it and let it go through you, it doesn't take even a minute to go through you. So you feel it and then it's gone. You feel angry, it goes. But then if you block it and don't allow yourself to feel it, then it creates like a heap of all these unprocessed emotions. And what they want to do is to leave your body. It's energy and motion. It wants to go. So if you block it in, this is what creates a stiffness, because you just have so much within your body that really shouldn't be there. So I agree, feel it. Regardless of what the emotion is, you're not responsible for how you feel. It's an energy that's coming. Let it pass, and then after that you can go on to whatever it is you're doing. You don't need to react, but you do need to just let it. You need to let it go through you.
And get the message. If you get angry, maybe it's people that are not fair. If you feel ashamed, maybe it's something you're not doing right. Or maybe you need to broaden your circle and not be ashamed of dumb little things. You can look at it both ways. And or fear. Fear is usually a message. So it's easy to get the message and then keep moving.
I think you're able to read the situation clear and been like, okay, I am mad about what happened with this person. And I feel like the more you kind of get in tune with yourself and get better with your emotional intelligence, we're able to see clearly for what this is. So it's like, am I just being triggered because they didn't respond to me in 2 minutes and now I'm exploding and now I'm full of rage and upsetness? It's a bit extreme, kind of given the situation. However, for example, let's say somebody is consistently disrespecting you and not showing up for you. In that case, I think it's fair to say that you should be angry. You should be upset. That's totally rational. It's totally valid. And it's something worth noting and mentioning to the other person. A lot of the times people are afraid of their own emotions, that they can't communicate effectively to the other person that it involves. And sometimes there's a level of shame and fear because they're thinking that they're making a big deal out of nothing. But it also takes yourself to really look at the situation as a whole to be like, am I reading this right? Or am I just being triggered because of past trauma? So if it's something worth mentioning to the other person, you're going to stand your ground. You're going to stand firm in it because you know that what they're doing is disrespectful and it's worth mentioning. And other times it's like, oh no, like it's my trigger. Like I'm just getting triggered because of a past trauma. So having that awareness is so important to be able to like handle the situation a lot more effectively.
Yeah. And sometimes it's complicated because of the ego. So with the ego, something happens. So assuming it's the first case where you're triggered because of something that happened in your childhood that you haven't dealt with yet. So So what example did you give? Someone hasn't responded in 2 minutes, and you're piping mad, you're jumping up and down, and you're thinking, this is insane. But it's difficult at the time because it's very easy for the ego to tell you, yes, you have every right. This person is doing who doesn't respond in 2 minutes. But being able to step back, because that's what you're saying. Whatever you feel it. Let it feel it. Whatever it is, the emotion that you have, feel it. But then step back and then ask yourself, what about this situation? Why am I triggered? What has this not being responded to in 2 minutes brought back to me? What happened before that I am associating this situation with? Because it might not be that person and that you are actually upset at. You might be upset at something that happened in your past. So tying in those connections then will enable you to make peace. You actually just need to sit down. You can journal about what it is that this emotion, this situation has brought up into your space. Journal about it, and then that is inner work, because from that you're able to see that this trigger was because of XYZ, and you make peace with XYZ. You visit your inner child and you say, this happened then. Unfortunately, this is a situation that you are in, but you can let go of that situation. You can let go of the emotions that you carried from that situation. It's okay to let them go. And you can then move into the present without the luggage. Without that luggage, that means that the next time that or any other person doesn't call you back in 2 minutes, you don't have the same emotional reaction because you've dealt with the past. And now you'd maybe be looking at it more like 2 minutes, and it doesn't affect you as much. Yeah.
I like the journal prompts. They're good for like obviously writing everything down. I'm also very big on verbal. So I have like my own verbal prompts. So I'll say it out loud to myself. And so then that way I'm like getting the emotion out there. I'm saying how I'm feeling, and like, because if you don't address it when you're talking about it, like you can never bring the shadow to light if it's not something you address, whether it be written down or verbally. But once you've said it or wrote it down, like it no longer has that power over you. So then after, like for me, for example, like if I'm having like my own verbal prompt and I'm expressing myself to myself, obviously, I notice I'll hit something, and like let's say I'm angry or upset, like mad, I'll hit something and then I'll just cry. I'm like, whoa, anger is always covering up sadness or grief or hurt. So I know I hit something when I start to kind of shed some tears. And then the emotion like leaves, because in energy, and it can never be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred. So it's like I had all this pent up anger, and then it released through crying. And then I'm like a lot more calmer. I'm like, okay, this isn't like so bad after all, or whatever the case may be. But I felt like I was able to work through it like myself. And this is a thing though, I wanted to say this like on the side, that us being on our inner work journey doesn't have to be so alone and sad. Like we don't have to do this by ourselves, but we are so good at it that we're now able to, like I said, hold that same space for somebody that is going and navigating through their own emotions on that. And we're going to attract people who are able to hold the same space for us. So it's like, it doesn't always, it can seem very isolating at first. We're like, oh, we can't say anything. We're in this such, high enraged state or angry state. But as you do this, you are able to hold the space for them, and then they were able to hold the space for you. Like, this doesn't have to be a sad, lonely journey. It really doesn't have to be, because I feel like when people do this inner work thing, they think they're like, oh, I have to do everything by myself. You're isolated. No, everyone else is doing this too. Like, you're not by yourself. Okay, I promise you.
Yeah, I think the inner work. I used to do a lot of things by myself. It's good to do some stuff by yourself, but some stuff you have to do with others. You cannot do it by yourself. So that's. I think you need both. And then we have like these phases where you do a lot on your own, and you do sort of studying by yourself, and then you have phases where you need coaches and healers and study buddies, and you need the guidance from outside. I think we need both. It's like people who go from relationship to relationship, it's good to take a break. But those who haven't been in a relationship for 3 years, maybe it's okay to go. It's good to go in again.
Yeah. I really like emotions because of finding triggers. Relationships are the ones that really just help me come out and say, aha, why did that upset you? And then relationships become my inner work venue.
I will say this. If you want to work on yourself, get into a relationship, because all your triggers will come up and you thought you were healed and you thought you were not triggered anymore. And then in this relationship, everything will kind of come up to light. So I almost feel like you can only do so much inner work by yourself. Once you start having more relationships, platonically or romantically, especially romantically, that's when it's going to be, you have to double down on your inner work, because that is where the true test lies. You have the opportunity to transcend that or go back to old patterns. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have to go through this alone, but have the awareness and have the responsibility of doing the inner work and not projecting that onto your partner or your friends. Because it could be a beautiful relationship and beautiful friendship, because I think through those moments we can get closer to one another, because we're showing our vulnerability and being honest and open, and you will start to have like better quality, authentic, more real dynamics in your life, because you're able to show that side of you and transcend it, and then they feel safe to probably be in the same space with you in transcending that heavy emotion as well.
Another good one too that brings up your emotions is starting your business.
Yes.
Once you
That's true.
evolve and transform into the business person and the person you want to be, a lot of things come up. And well, at least for me, one after the other.
I can attest to that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know. And then boom, I created my website. Ooh, I made the videos. Like, I understand that so much, Gooby. So I can relate to that. I can attest to that. Cause that was something I needed to work on too. Like, if you want to get triggered and you want to work on that, start a business. Start a business. It really does. It really does. So yeah, I can attest to that.
No, I can too. And the self-doubting and the questioning and the wondering and there's a lot happens. That's quite true. A question to you, Alex, in terms of how do you practically get out emotions? Like Gubi, you mentioned the walking, the dancing. I relate to the dancing and the swimming. What about you, Alex?
So let's say I'm having like a very sad or upsetting moment that I'm dealing with, or very anxious, for example. I use this a technique called havening. So havening is like when you're kind of like hugging yourself, so you're rubbing your arms up and down, kind of like you're giving yourself like a hug. And it releases the delta waves, like as though like your mom is like hugging you when you were a child. And during that, you're kind of getting out of the fear, the anxiety, the sadness, because it's releasing like dopamine, oxytocin, and I'm repeating to myself, I am safe, I am peaceful, I am calm, I am hopeful. And it makes me feel so much better. I know it works because I feel better. So something that was a very upsetting to me in the moment no longer has that emotional like pull on me any longer, and I feel so much more at peace through this technique. I know I've mentioned this before, but I've also done like EFT tapping, where I'll kind of tap at different pressure point or acupressure points on the face, like between above like the eyebrow, the side of the eye, underneath the eye, underneath the nose, the chin, the collarbone, and underneath the underarm. Oh, and then on top of the head. It's like you repeat like a phrase that you're like afraid of, what you think it means, and you're tapping it out essentially. And then sometimes I'll do this other technique where I have, let's say I'm bothered by like a specific event or situation, and an image comes to mind. And I actually allow myself to feel what I'm feeling and like get as upset as I can possible. And then I switch the image to something more positive, something that made me really happy. And then intensify those feelings as much as I can. And then I have this like switch off, like the negative and the positive, the negative and the positive. So then I'm able to override what I was feeling previously to something that elated my excitement, that gave me more of peace and happiness. So I amplify those feelings, and I do that back and forth until like I'm neutral or I'm feeling better. So that is one other technique that I use. Um, yeah, and then a lot of things I do is just like I'm just like a verbal person, so I'll talk to myself a lot, and then that way like I let everything out. I've done this thing to where it's like a chair technique. Have you heard of that? The chair technique? Okay,
No.
so Aaron Doughty, he had mentioned it in one of his videos. It's like, let's say you are upset with someone and you wanted to tell them how you were feeling, but obviously you're not, like, let's say they're not part of your life anymore. If you want to forgive them, it's just imagine them sitting in a chair in front of you and you talking to them. Or the other option is you also sitting in the chair being them, and then having them like you responding back as though you were them. And then it has like a compassion, like you have some compassion like from both parties, because you're able to express yourself, and then you're also able to see it from their viewpoint, that they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. And you were able to have like that emotional relief, saying like, okay, like I'm at peace with this person now, because if they knew better, they would have done better. So it takes a lot of like, that takes a lot of inner work to get there, but like, you know, you've really transcended something when somebody that used to bother you, or that you used to not feel at peace with, like when thinking of them, you're like, I have compassion for you. I'm no longer bothered by you and what you did anymore. So that can take a little bit of time, but it's a very, very powerful technique as well.
That's really beautiful. I heard a hack for that last one, where you imagine them as a child. Because in the same way you have your inner child who was hurt at some point in time, people get stuck at whatever point in time they were hurt. So if someone has just been really aggressive or mean or whatever towards you, imagine them as a 5-year-old. Maybe someone was mean to them when they were 5. And that's also just another mental trick that makes it easier to have compassion for them, because you see them as themselves stuck as a child, unable to come out of it. Yeah.
And the phrase that hurt people, that's
Mm.
so true, right? Because happy, healthy people who are good, they're not going to project that on hurt other people. It just doesn't match up. It really doesn't. So you're able to, when you do your own inner work, have compassion for other people.
Mm. Cool. Good. Any last comments, I guess? I think that's what we had for today. Any last thoughts?
Summary wise, it's good to get out of those trapped emotions, because you can only meet people as deep as you've met yourself. And sometimes you are in your own way. And until you've dealt with some trauma and some past emotions and getting rid of that, you're not able to truly hold the space for other people to what you could have the capacity for.
And I would just say, don't resist.
Yeah, and I would say there are resources. If you are more curious into what to do around emotions, read the book The Emotion Code as an example. There are resources outside there that can also help you figure out how to manage this more fully. So go out, listen to YouTube as you're doing, listen to podcasts, read books. There's a lot of resources available for you. So then, good. thank you so much all for joining us. This is the Coaching Circle. We'll see you again next week at the same time. Bye-bye.